This portion is called Ve'et Hanan, which means, and I pleaded, referring to Moses pleading with the Lord to allow him to enter the promised land. It covers from chapter 3, verse 23 to chapter 7, verse 11. Now, the Jewish sages say that Moses pleaded 515 times, which is the numeric value of this word, Ve'et Hanan. And this was his final request. But it wasn't to be. He was not going to be permitted to enter the land. And some Jewish teaching says that Moses' reward in glory was made all the greater because of the pain that he endured in being denied access to the land. And maybe he was permitted to feel some of the pain that God himself had felt in his heart throughout the history of mankind. This Jewish Sabbath is also named Shabbat Nachamu, which means the Sabbath of consolation or of comfort. Now it follows immediately after the 9th of Av, which is the saddest day in the Jewish year. An unbelievable number of catastrophes have come upon the Jewish people on this day, heaviest of all being the destruction of the temple. But this Sabbath is one of comfort. What can be the source of their comfort when the temple still isn't rebuilt? Well, this portion suggests an interesting answer. It focuses on chapter 3, verse 27, which says this: the Lord speaking to Moses, "Ascend to the top of the cliff and raise your eyes westward, northward, southward, and eastward, and see with your eyes, for you shall not cross the Jordan." See with your eyes. Is there any other way of seeing? Of course not. Therefore, the subtle words of the inspired text is inviting us to explore what may lie behind these words. Yosef Rosen, who died in 1936, suggests that Moses was being invited to face Eretz Israel, the land of Israel, in both a literal and an emotional sense, and recognize his personal agony at not being able to enter. Moses accordingly sees the land from the height of Pisgah and encounters the extent of his pain. Well, paradoxically, this is the source of his comfort. To explain, today is the Sabbath of comfort for the Jews after the loss nearly 2,000 years ago of their temple. Remember Herod's temple, which was there at the time of Jesus. Well, it's a comfort because they discover afresh that even after so long a time, 2,000 years, they still yearn for the loss and hope for its rebuilding. So they are comforted, not through the pain, heaven forbid, but through the fact that they still feel the pain, the loss. Their hearts haven't hardened and their hopes grown dim. And this is the comfort, to know that they still feel and they still care. Well, back to Moses. The teaching goes like this. After so many times asking God to allow him to enter the land and being refused, Moses feared that he had become numb, hardened within. We may describe a similar feeling as maybe sour grapes. Oh, we say it's probably better that I didn't get it anyway. And this is an age-old remedy for deep disappointment, and it's a bad remedy too. But once Moses saw the land with his eyes, which was the words of the Lord, the pain he felt confirmed to him that he had not grown callous or bitter through his long years of disappointment. Now, if this is close to what is actually being suggested by the unusual wording of the text, it also shows us how deeply concerned God is with our hearts, our inner feelings, and our wholeness, our wellness, which is contained in that lovely word shalom. And because of the condition of mankind since the fall, wholeness can only be reached through brokenness. Moses undoubtedly wept to see the land in its fullness, but it was God who brought him to this place of pain, and it was the final benediction on Moses' life. It was a victory for both God and Moses. Moses still longed for the land even whilst he relinquished it to God's will. He never erected unnatural barriers to protect himself from pain. He was ready to feel the pain still. He still had a tender heart. On Shabbat Nachamu, Jews feel the anguish and shed a tear over the loss of the temple. Chazal say, quote, "Whoever mourns Jerusalem merits to see its joy," unquote, suggesting that whoever is able to feel the pain will merit seeing it in the day of its redemption, when the streets are filled with laughter and the sound of children. The comfort then of this day is that they haven't grown old and tired and bitter and forgetful. Now, where are we today? Where are you? Where am I? Are we living embodiments of hope and anticipation at seeing Jesus, or have we grown tired and old? Heaven forbid. And when I say see Jesus, I mean both in the clouds at his promised return to take us to the place he has prepared for us, and also to see him in our lives today, here and now. And to give others the opportunity to see Jesus in our lives, to be witnesses of the transforming love of Jesus, hearts broken and healed by his love, not made bitter by hard experiences or by disappointment, but softened, broken open, like the unnamed woman's alabaster jar of perfume, you'll remember. It was only after it was broken that people could benefit from its fragrance. And the fragrance, the scriptures say, filled the entire house. Matthew 26 verse 7 following. Isn't this typical of God? 100% of everything and then some. One of his names, El Shaddai, can be translated as the God who is more than enough. He always wants to fill the entire house of creation, and he will have his way. Not by power, nor by might, but by his Holy Spirit in his children. You know, the ones who have been broken, like Peter when he crumpled before the loving gaze of Jesus after his denials, or Paul when he realized he had been hurting Jesus by attacking Christians. God is the only one who can make a human being. Well, I'll rephrase that. He is the only one who can make human beings of us. Until life breaks us, we're incomplete. We're confident, even arrogant, successful maybe, popular possibly. We're self-contained, and that's not what it means to be a complete human being. We are here first for God, to love him with everything we've got, and secondly, for others. The perfume is within this container. Pity then the self-contained, those that are not broken. If life is battering you, keep close to Jesus. Above all, don't withdraw, but give even more to Jesus and to others. It's a wonderful miracle to become a complete human being through suffering. It's the way of Moses. It's the way of David and Paul and even Jesus, of whom it was said, he was perfected through the things which he suffered. Hebrews chapter 5, verse 8.